Why would John Speed, right, on his maps, why would he draw this site here? Firstly, right, there is no mound at Hartshead, although Robin Hood's grave's at Hartshead, but there's no mound or hill. The mound or hill actually is at Dalton, but he's drawn it at Hartshead, so there is a mound, but then again there's two mounds because there's Castle Hill and then there's the Warriors, which has got very, very steep sides, the Warriors, and it's the same height as Silbury Hill. This site particularly is drawn like the sides are very, very steep. Now, the thing with Speed is this. I've been looking at some of his other maps, right? He's actually from Cheshire, right? He doesn't draw anything of significance or even caricature or anything at Oswestry at all. There's a forest, I think, that he points out. He doesn't draw anything. He doesn't make any acknowledgement at all whatsoever of Old Oswestry, nor does he make any figurative pictorial acknowledgement of Maiden Castle, although he does all the seacoast in like prominent zigzag lines, which is quite interesting. But so why did he put this one on here? And I think it doesn't, on one of the versions of his maps, I'm not sure it even appears. So why did he put this on? That is the question. Unless he thought it was significantly worth noting, but he didn't put it in the right place. Why? He must have thought something significant about it. I think that our site, the top one, the highest one, does look very, very, very. Once you come over those hills and you're into that valley, it is like almost like a veil. It's a very prominent veil, and the fact that start of the river as well. The fact that is the same, apparently 40 meters, same as ours, which is kind of hard to imagine, although that's what it said on the altitude. So, and the fact that triangle that I showed in the other video lines up perfectly. I'd already been looking at Newgrange and these rivers are both of the same longitude and latitude, and they both got ancient sites on. Ours at the start, theirs is more towards the end. And then I'm like, we've got these three sites that are kind of like elongated, like masculine, but they're all spaced out. But at the other site, they've got three mount, Newgrange, Noth and Dove, but they're all kind of closest together around where that bend in the river is. But it's also like a womb, like a tummy, like a pregnant woman's shape. And then one of them's got all little kids around it. It's interesting. There's a lot. There's a whole other. There's all this mathematics and algebra and geometry and complicated maths, but no one else is talking about these symbolic meaning side of it, and the fact that how do these things get shaped from the land, through the energies that go around them, like the wind and the rain, and like you said, the ice cap shaping and things. These cops, there's some the significance that Gail Higginbottom has given to the Long Barrows being a lot more significant to the British Isles, and all up through Spain, you've got cairns and barrows, but they're all round. The British Isles, the Lake District, is well known for these, natural chaps, cops, barrows, and so forth shipped out of the weather, and people dwelling on top of them, not necessarily going inside, which you get at these small. I think that the smaller long barrows are something to do with symbolising the. You see, we are shaped by the environment, you know? People from other countries, you know? The colour of your skin from the sun, even the shape of your face from what you eat, shaped from the environment around you, right? But then you've also got the inside. So you've got it's shaped by the outer environment, but also shaped from the inside, you know, the dreaming, the thoughts. Those long barrows are more sort of coastal than inland. You do get like some inland, like, you know, Arthur's Stone, although Bellasnap isn't really that far from the River Severn, Cheltenham. They're a lot more coastal. It's almost like they're small chapels or churches, or smaller versions of the chaps, of the big natural ones. And the fact that we're right in the middle of the island and we've got a couple of them what you can go on top of, there's a model to it, you know. When what I've said in the other video, you know, when in the 1800s, when they're, you know, speaking to these Indians, native Indians, how they're talking, you know, that little Big Horn or whatever he's called, you know, he was talking, you know, what will you do when all the deer and the buffalo are gone, you know, and they're hunted to extinction, you know, and the rivers are all dried up. You know, the way he's speaking about the land, they don't give him, you know, the ignorance of the West, you know, just tobacco plantations and the rest. But he's speaking in this language that this is how a lot of us think in this country, that the more liberal and altruistic of us, people who like Stonehenge and these ancient sites, and, you know, Avebury and Stonehenge, you know, and there are some people who just don't think like that and don't care about those sort of things, you know, like these business people, these corporate entities, McDonald's executives, and, you know, so forth. And the way you know, they don't even appreciate or regard it. But what is the importance of it, though? Well, they're just the way that they talk about these ancient people, and even sometimes the prehistory guys, when they're walking around having their chats, sometimes it's kind of frustrating, because I can imagine perfectly, you know, if you're studying, you know, the alignments and, you know, traveling by the stars at night and so forth, and you're like, okay, you know, like what the Romans are credited for, at least saying that, you know, they used to come over to England to study Druidry and so forth. It's not even that hard. We know now it's not even that hard to get across the ocean with all these refugees coming over on little dinky boats, you know. Just like the challenges, like, okay, right, you know, once you've got your bearings, like, you know, university is 3 years study, then you got to go find, you know, Oswestry, you know, all the places you'd see, and get in there and learning the skills of dealing with people. And then, you know, once you found it, and if that was one of the, you know, like the equivalent of monasteries where the druids were, then you're like, oh, I found us, have you? And, you know, thingamajigs, some new students here. And then, you know, it all makes complete sense. And if they've got all, you know, and the fact that, you know, he even said that they've got this, you know, Temple of the Sun, Temple of Apollo, what they called it, and the dancing. You know, I'm not for all this sacrifice business. only to the sense that, we've got butchers and abattoirs now, but they don't like talk about it on the news all the time or shock horror. And the thing, what actually is a sacrificial ceremony? If children like animals, goats, little chickens, ducks, humans care. And, if you had to, kill the cow or the family goat or sheep, whatever, you would kind of like be a bit upset about it and want to do this a bit more of a ceremonial ritual to it, like kind of like honor or stroke it or pet it and then so forth, rather than it just being inhuman. And so, some people just don't get all that, that is, when my rabbit died, like you were upset about it and buried it and so forth. And this is what they did to people. You don't go to all that trouble of burying people if you don't have feelings and care and all this. Even now in the year 2023, the attitude and mentality of some of these mainstream news programs is it just is, after watching all the presentation on the complicated mathematics and so forth of the ancient sites thousands of years ago, and then we have to watch GB News or whatever with its Harry and Meghan. Is this what the human race has come to? Harry and Meghan tiffs or whatever. It's cornflakes factories, Warburtons. The stupidity is, and then the fact that sperm counts dropped by half. They've been poisoning us. They didn't want us to be intelligent. It is a war. It's a war of intelligence, and they don't want there to be an other opposition that doesn't want to do what they want to do, that has the capability and capacity to stop them from doing what they want to do. That's what it's all about, really. And this is what Robert F. Kennedy has got on the menu now. It is an industrial military complex. This is what the Romans were after, killing all the druids. But I think they're after killing all of us eventually and getting robots to do what they want and just having an elite, which is all affiliated and aligned to one objective, goal, and mission. And there is no opposition to it. And all the robots are programmed to obey, and then all the children are brought up to the same paradigm and within a. This is what's on Tony Blair's lips, many advantages, mechanisms of implementation. I'm not for it because it's fascist and it's just, it lends for, they want people to only be creative, and do technology and innovation and design that can only be used to their objective goals and paradigms. And that's not creative, and they don't want creativity. They don't actually want people to enjoy themselves and have a happy life. All they want to do is make technology that's discarded, and they use it as stepping stones as they're going along for them to gain more money and power. And the fact that they've got disposable trillions now, Charles is like, beyond leaders, disposable trillions. Leaders mean nothing to them. They sue governments when governments, harm their potential future profits, although they don't need any more profits, because they all own the same companies and they've got disposable trillions. So, what it is, it basically anything that gives normal people power and gives anyone half a chance to even completely fairly oppose them, that's if they're not distracted by the entertainment rubbish they're pumping out. It's just despicable. This is why political rights come into it, and they're even trying to take those away. The only rights that they believe in are money, and we don't have the money, they do. And if they can't believe that there should be anything on this planet that can't be bought by money or deactivated by money or owned, they will own us on their platforms, own us, something needs to be done